some questions throughout the webinar as well. If you have any technical difficulties, please don't hesitate to call Alyssa. Her phone number and email will be on screen shortly. Other than that, we just want to thank all of you for joining us, and we're going to go ahead and get started with some welcome and introductions. I know we have a lot of different dairy industry representatives on the call today, from dairy farmers to communicators and industry affiliates. We're going to learn a little bit about who's on the line in a few minutes. The My Dairy program, for those of you who are new to it, is currently in its third year. Hard to believe for those of us who launched it a few years ago. But we're thrilled to be continuing the social media webinar today. We've held, I think, 4 other ones this year that were more themed webinars, and that certainly has been more specific to applications. And I'm going to have to say one of the main housekeeping items is that I'm just getting my voice back, so you might have to bear with me a little bit as we go through the first part of the webinar. I know Alyssa will be joining us a little bit later in the webinar. We also have some producers and industry affiliates who will be sharing some information about their experience with social media. In general, today's webinar will be a quick overview of the My Dairy program. We certainly want to be mindful of everyone's time. We have a wide variety of expertise on today's call. So our goal is really that everyone walks away with just at least a nugget of information. And with that, we're going to have some different My Dairy advocates share, and we'll make sure there's ample time for questions. We always find that it's most interesting to learn from some of our peers that are out there in the trenches working through some of the same items that we each are. So we'll go over some social media tools, and certainly we'll walk through the toolkit for those of you that it might be new to, and also highlight a few things that even if you have been on the toolkit before, there's some new blog rolls and different things that you might find of interest. And lastly, we're certainly going to talk about what will happen in the program in 2012. So thanks again for everyone for giving us a little of your time this morning. My name's Michelle. I know several of you on today's call. For those of you I haven't met in person or via online, I live in Oregon, where my family has a couple dairy farms. I help DMI on their dairy farmer image front, backing up their issues and crisis communications team, and I'm the architect behind dairyfarmingtoday.com and the various platforms. So I assist Jolene and Alyssa with the My Dairy program, and we are going to hear from Alyssa a little bit later when we talk specifics about some of those various platforms and trends that are going on right now. Alyssa has been with us since the inception of the My Dairy program. She's one of the catalysts behind it. She works with Weber Shandwick and also has been a key part of the crisis readiness team for 4 years now. So with that, we're going to kick off the webinar with a poll to sort of get a sense of who is on the call today. If you have a computer in front of you, please take a few seconds to participate in the following question. What's your dairy affiliation? Whether you're a dairy producer, dairy promotion organization, dairy business, or other affiliate, industry member, or perhaps you're a student at either the collegiate or high school level, go ahead and click which one best. You might fit a few of those roles, but pick one. And we'll see the different people that are on the call today. You just click on which one best describes you and hit submit. And we should have results, Alyssa, pretty quickly. Okay, the poll is tallying. It looks like we have a lot of dairy producers. About 25% of people on the call are dairy farmers. Thank you for joining us. And a good portion are also industry affiliates and dairy communicators and promotion board affiliates. So great. Thanks for being on the call today. We'll look forward to hearing from you guys later too. Well, let's get started. My dairy. Why is it important? I think most of us can answer that question. When we started it a few years ago, it was really very simple. We needed a way to get positive information about dairy into the hands of the people that are information seekers. And the best way to do that, as most of us know, is through the social media generation. And I think everyone agrees that social media gives us a unique opportunity to reach people and hopefully influence people with positive experiences and stories like never before. There's also, of course, that other group of people who are also out there trying to tap into those same information seekers with maybe negative or uninformed or just plain inaccurate opinions about modern dairy farming. And while they're actively in the social media world and somewhat effective in using social media to share their viewpoints with a wider audience, we want to make sure there's lots of positive dairy information to balance out those misconceptions and inaccurate information being posted by some of the anti-animal agriculture groups. While we don't necessarily want to go head-to-head with these activists, our focus really is finding and responding to people who are really interested in learning about modern-day farming practices and are really willing to listen to the facts. I think all of us could probably share a story, whether it's a neighbor or a parent at the school that our kids go to, or just sitting on an airplane sometime when a person finds out you're affiliated with dairy, whether you're a dairy farmer or not, and they just have some really good questions, and they may not know where to go to ask them, so they Google it like all of us Google things, and we just want to make sure they land on some positive information to balance out some of the negative stuff they might stumble upon online. I was at the grocery store the other day, and the woman in front of me was talking on her cell phone, and she was going on and on. Her husband was prompting her to buy milk, and she didn't think that was necessary, and because of all these things she had read online. So while we need to be playing in that field, we also need to be playing face-to-face too a little bit. It was interesting to politely say, I'm sorry for eavesdropping, but can we have a little conversation about some of this stuff? So always on the lookout for those conversations, whether it's online or face-to-face. That's kind of what the My Dairy program is all about, just supporting you guys as you do that. So why should you spend time online or be part of My Dairy? I think there's a couple good reasons. Hopefully we're helping you access the latest information about social media trends and tools. Alyssa will be sharing a few new tidbits this afternoon. We also basically want to help you tap into consumers, the general public, so that you can share those stories and positive information and facts. I think a lot of people think, oh gosh, this will be such a huge time commitment, but all we're really asking you to do is to amplify the information you already have because you experience it day in and day out, and really share it with those circle of people who trust you and believe what you say, and will then also be spokespeople for dairy, because when they then get a question, they have someone to either refer that person to, or certainly can maybe answer some of the questions themselves because of the good information you've provided them. Throughout the year, our goal is really just to equip and motivate dairy producers and dairy enthusiasts with thought starters, maybe sample tweets, sample Facebook posts, ideas throughout the year, and offer technical support as needed Today's webinar is one of 5 for the year, like I mentioned. We will continue quarterly social media specific webinars like we held this year in 2012. We also have some updates for the online toolkit, and certainly many of you have not only read the e-blasts. I think we've sent out well over 60 e-blasts. We try not to inundate people, but once a month at least, provide thought starters and latest trends on social media and dairy issues that are being discussed online. And once in a while, those include headline stories that could really use a balanced viewpoint, which is a little more reactive use of the My Dairy system. As far as why it's important for the dairy industry, I think we all understand that people spend time online. It's where consumers get their information. There's lots of different studies out there that show the trend of well over 60% of people, I think, get their news online. So we need to be where our consumers are, where they're having discussions, where they're getting their news. And there's no better way to reach consumers than with social media right now. So I guess one other compelling reason is the more, I guess, positive and strong online voices that are pro-dairy that we can get online, the more impact we can have and the more balance we can offer to some of the negative and uninformed or just plain inaccurate opinions about modern dairy farming that exist out there. Lastly, I always like to emphasize, while the program really is intended to be proactive, there are times that we need to be reactive and focus on responding to the people who are having anti-dairy campaigns out there, or maybe more stories or headlines, news stories or headlines, which we'll share some examples of later, that didn't quite tell the whole story. So we want to reach people who are willing to listen to the facts online. And lastly, we always want to drive people to dairyfarmingtoday.org and those platforms, which we'll showcase in a little bit, and just encourage people to have that respectful, meaningful conversation about modern dairy farming practices. As I mentioned, Dairy Farming Today, while it started as a website back in 2005, partly in response to a video that some of you may remember, the Meatrix was an animation, kind of an ugly video put out by an anti-agriculture group. And we wanted to make sure that there was a place where people could go when they Googled to reach an authentic voice about modern dairy farming that actually had third-party credibility and facts. So if you haven't ever been on dairyfarmingtoday.org, we certainly would encourage you to do so. We have extended that positive dairy content to several social media platforms in the past 2 years, including Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and certainly the website itself continues to get updates. And I think, one of our goals when we launched that in 2005 is that at the time, believe it or not, when you Googled dairy farming, you would the whole first page was filled with sites like Milk Sucks, as an example. And our goal was to be on that first page of the search engines when someone wanted to find information on dairy farms. And in a matter of a year and a half, we had moved successfully to the top spot and continue to be in that top spot for key search terms for dairy farming. The My Dairy program really further builds the presence of dairy online through also linking all the good work all of you are doing and sharing posts, comments, and blogs by individual dairy advocates. Not to focus too much on those what we refer to as badvocates, but as you know, there are many individuals and groups or organizations that have a very different and often uninformed view of modern dairy farming. So whether you want to mention, I'm sure different groups come to mind as you're listening, PETA, HSUS, they are very effective and actively using social media to share their viewpoints and gain members. But these organizations are only one of the reasons BMI saw the need to enter social media space to really rally dairy industry representatives. I really think, as someone who's been in communications for over 12 years, the last few years have been really exciting to see how the communication model has shifted. We truly have a golden opportunity to reach consumers like never before with positive on-farm information. I can remember, or just think about my own dad who, obviously has been a dairy farmer, was a dairy farmer his whole life. And, if he did a school tour or spoke to a group, those were all great things. But the idea that you could actually share your experiences with your neighbors and people you don't even know with a click of a button is really, really unique. So we stay very clear that some of the aforementioned groups are trying to reach the same audience or information seekers that we are. And if we don't actively tell our story, there are plenty of groups obviously willing to step in and tell it for us. So we challenge the My Dairy Advocates to really fill the information gap with positive dairy facts and stories. I think one example of the effectiveness that the advocates have played, or the positive role that advocates have played in protecting dairy's image, was last year when ABC Nightline News ran a story that was negative and showed some negative video from a dairy farm. And, one of the things about stories anymore, news stories, is that their longevity has never been greater. They can live and breathe online for a very long time. And through the comments section, obviously, people can continue to comment and find information. So the My Dairy team sent out an e-blast explaining the situation, the background behind the story, and really encouraged people, if they have the time, to tell the rest of the story and to share some of the good animal care practices that we know dairy farmers do every day. And as an example, I think there were well over 1,000 comments on that one story alone on abc.com. And we tracked those and really proud to say that more than 40% of those comments were positive or in favor of dairy. Some of those, hopefully you can read them. Just to highlight a few, I spend countless hours in the heat, cold, rain, wind, and snow taking care of my animals. I do this because I enjoy caring for these cows. Another one, remember the farmers across America represent 0.6% of the population. What they can do is amazing, providing enough food for not only the U.S., but other parts of the world. And the comments went on and on. But what a testament to have that many positive comments come from a variety of people, including veterinarians, dairy farmers, beef and dairy industry representatives. So really a great testament to the positive impact we can have in trying to tell our story and protect the image of dairy. That said, most of you probably know these stats, but there's only over 53,000 dairy farms in the United States, and I think we have over 1,600 advocates, but we can always use more. Some of those advocate groups we've talked about have hundreds of thousands of followers and members. So there are organizations and companies that take a stance as against to what they perceive as factory farming. An example, earlier this year, some of you may have seen the video that Chipotle released. It was on YouTube. I think it was called Back to the Start. Received, currently 2.8 million views, and it depicts what they believe is the evolution of farming. And it's one example of an organization that's tied to some of those animal groups that has a strong following, certainly because of their restaurant, storefront patrons, but also they just have a lot of fans and followers online. So these are challenges that we'll continue to have to work through, but with strong dairy advocates, I feel confident that we can move the needle, just like we did in the ABC.com Nightline piece. Where are people spending time online? Currently, we have some stats that you guys might be interested in. I'm sure if I told you right now, it probably wouldn't be a shock to you, but right now Facebook seems to be the one that people get on the most, whether for personal or professional reasons. And I think 77%, if you look at Facebook, use it often or every day. So that's pretty impactful, I think, numbers like that. A lot of people in a separate question said 64% prefer Facebook as their social media application, but certainly other channels are used by advocates every day, platforms like Twitter, blogs. Literally, when we launched the program back in 2009, My Dairy, there was one dairy blogger out there, one. And today, we have several that do just an outstanding job. I don't have the stats right in front of me, but it's also exponential how these the members of these groups have grown. Facebook has doubled since we started. Twitter has more than doubled. So people really are using these platforms, and it's why it's so important that we play in that arena too. In 2012, we'll be working with advocates to help them better utilize social media channels with which they're familiar and comfortable. I always think it's important that people don't feel like they have to be playing in every single arena or platform, but they need to pick one or two that they're really comfortable in and be willing, I think, to maybe use new applications to advocate for dairy and monitor online conversations. But really, social media is meant to just extend your voice in a channel or platform that you already are in or feel comfortable with. So people shouldn't feel like, oh, I'm not going to enter social media if I don't have time to blog once a week. Maybe blogging's not your thing, but a quick update from your car or your tractor or feeding calves on Twitter is much easier. So at this point, I'm going to introduce a My Dairy advocate from Indiana. She is a dairy producer who does a tremendous job of telling her story via Facebook and Twitter. Luann Troxel, are you online?
Yes, I am. Good morning.
Oh, great. Well, Luann, if you would take a few minutes to kind of share a little background on Troxel Dairy and kind of what prompted you to get involved in social media, that would be great. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Well, thank you. I'm certainly not an expert on social media, but I do know some things about dairy farming. And so when I discovered that there were people that had a lot of misconceptions about what we did, I wanted to see if I could do something to help that. So, a lot of this came about because of the things you already described, Michelle, that, there are organizations out there that don't, they think that we're wrong. They think that what I do is evil. When I first discovered that, it was very difficult for me. I felt like I needed to do some things in a positive way to have information out there. And so I had actually taken, I had watched, then participating in some seminars that Michelle Payne-Knoper had put on, and she really got me interested in learning more about that as well. And, I found out you didn't have to be an expert to set up a Facebook page. And one of the things that you just have to do it, and you find out it's not that hard. It's kind of fun for me because my husband's a veterinarian, so because of his veterinary stories and things that, some of the things that he does, that adds just a little bit of a dimension to our farm page that, that said, I think every dairy farm has something that's unique to them. It's why we don't have cookie-cutter farms. They all have some unique flavor, and it's interesting to tell our stories as they pertain to us and our families and those conversations that we have. So that's really kind of what I did, and I do link my Facebook page to Twitter, so whenever I put something on our Facebook page, it does go out to Twitter. I also put some things on Twitter as well, but I'm not as big of a Twitter user as I am on Facebook. It's a time thing for me, and also a little bit of my comfort level on how I use Twitter. And I think everybody has to kind of find what is comfortable for them, and the more they do it, the more they understand it and learn more about it. It's really something you learn by doing more than anything. But there was a real great moment for us this year where it came to play the importance of doing things like this. I'm very involved in our dairy producer organization in Indiana, and we work so well with the Indiana Dairy Council, our checkup organization. And we were alerted to a situation that happened in May where an investigative report was going to be coming out on the use of antibiotics. And I think if you switch to the very next slide, you will see here that WTHR, Channel 13 in Indianapolis, did an investigative report on antibiotics in milk. And although there was nothing in this report that was essentially inaccurate, the segment did question the integrity of our current antibiotic residue protocols, and we really felt like it exaggerated the potential food safety implications. That was frustrating because, we know that our product is tested so much. We know all the rules and regulations we have concerning responsible antibiotic usage. So seeing this segment was frustrating. It also focused on individual dairy farmers, showing for example, it would show a picture of a dairy farmer's mailbox with their name on it. So that part of this segment was very disconcerting to us because of what it was doing. So after the segment aired, there was an opportunity to go to WTHR's Facebook page, and the My Dairy people alerted us to where this was, and we spent the next day after the segment aired by trying to put some positive comments on that. And I was really grateful that this did air and that they picked up one of the comments that I did from the Caldwell Dairy Farm. Now, I think that one of the reasons why maybe they picked mine was that I was from Indiana, but there were some really great comments from a number of people. And we had no way of knowing that very night they were going to do another segment on their TV news exactly about the comments that had come in. And so they actually put our comments on the nightly news the following day, and these were positive. So to me it was really a great way of showing the power of social media from taking what I perceived as a negative story to being not so negative. I can't say that it was all positive, but it certainly reduced the negative implications of that investigative report in my mind. I think we're all busy and we all have to do what we can do. We all have to have our priorities straight and try to, deal with the time constraints. That's a huge problem as dairy farmers and for those of you in the industry as well. We're always trying to juggle a lot of different things. But some of these tools on Facebook and Twitter and even commenting when it's appropriate, they do not take a tremendous amount of time. And so I just encourage you to do what you can. I don't do a lot, but what I do, I think it does make a difference. And I think collectively, that's the power of it. So I guess if you have any questions about that, I'd be glad to answer them maybe later. But that's really, I don't know, that's what I've got on this.
Are there any questions for Luann now? Sometimes it's easier to ask them as we go through the webinar instead of holding them all to the end. If you do have a question, you can certainly unmute by #6. Okay, well, if something creeps up, I think Luann will be on for a few minutes anyway, so you can certainly use that QA function or unmute your line. And we're going to go ahead and turn it over to Alyssa now to talk about social media use, some of the different tools and content ideas.
Thanks, Michelle, and thanks, Luann, for sharing that great case study. And thanks again to everyone on the phone for joining us today to learn more about the My Dairy program and how we can advocate for dairy. So with so many people with varying social media levels on the webinar, we're going to start with just some quick overviews about some of the most used social media platforms and how you can use them to advocate for dairy. And if you're new to the My Dairy program or even new to social media in general, don't hesitate to unmute your phone and ask questions as we move along. Or if you feel more comfortable, you can definitely connect with me or Michelle or another member of the My Dairy team after the webinar is over. So this slide, or a similar version of this slide, was presented at our very first My Dairy webinar in February of 2009. And one thing I'd like to point out is that these numbers have increased so much and dramatically. It's really neat to think about a few key changes I'd like to point out. In February of 2009, there were 17 million Twitter accounts. And as you can see here, there are now just about 175 million accounts, which is just a staggering increase in the past almost 3 years. And another one to point out, Facebook, at the time of our very first webinar, had 400 million and now has 750 million active users. And so what we need to realize about this is that all social media spaces, they're always growing, they're always changing, and they all engage users differently. So we're going to be talking a little bit more about some of the main social media platforms you see here. And then we'll also chat about a few of the up-and-coming platforms that you may not have heard of yet. And so before we get started, one thing that you can, generally think about for all social media platforms is that as a dairy industry representative, how can we best be a part of the story? And so you want to make sure that, when you're tweeting, when you're posting something on Facebook, blogging, you want to make sure that your posts, tweets, blogs, those messages are showable, sayable, searchable, and shareable. And what that kind of means, for showable, when you're posting something in, it's fact-based, make sure to include that link so you can show your followers and anyone who's searching for the conversation you're having knows that you're a good and reputable source. Or if you want to tweet something and it's something pretty visual that's going on in your farm, take a quick twit pic and upload it and attach it to that tweet. Make sure that people understand what you're saying. Searchable. And so when it comes to Twitter, you want to make sure you're using relevant hashtags, so your tweets are going beyond just your followers and into that greater conversation. So if you're tweeting about something that's going on in your dairy or your dairy farm, make sure to include hashtag dairy or hashtag dairy farm so that anyone who's searching on Twitter and wants to learn more about, dairy or, dairy farm is able to find that really easily. And again, like you would do it with a blog too, make sure you're appropriately tagging your blog posts so that, and using good keywords in your blog so that people can find them if that's the information they're looking for. So sayable, you want to use language that's, familiar to those people who might not be a part of the dairy industry. A lot of consumers, don't know everything to know or don't know all the lingo that goes on, with dairy farms. And so, especially on Twitter and Facebook where there isn't as much room for explanation as there is on a blog, you want to make sure that, people understand what you're saying and that if they see something on Twitter or Facebook or on your blog, that they can take that information and it's easily shareable for them. They can tell their neighbor, oh, I saw this tweet the other day. It said, something really interesting about a dairy farm, so that they can remember it and keep that information with them. And lastly, shareable. So this is especially pertinent in Twitter. When you're tweeting, obviously the character limitations on Twitter are 140 characters, and it's been found that some of the most retweeted tweets come in, pretty far under 140 characters, which allows people to retweet those to their follower and give their own personal insight about that tweet. So you want to make sure that everything that you're putting out there in social media is shareable. And so first we'll start off with Facebook. A lot of people are familiar with Facebook. A lot of people are using Facebook. Facebook was started in 2004, and it was, started as a site to link college students together, by essentially friending people. And I actually remember the day that our college was accepted to be able to use the Facebook program. I got a Yahoo Messenger from a girl who lived on my same dorm floor, and she said, "We have Facebook, exclamation, exclamation, exclamation." And I responded with, "What is Facebook?" But so, I went to the website, I joined, and at that time, everyone was, the people who could participate in Facebook were limited to those college students and people who had a .edu email address. And, Facebook certainly has evolved over time, and, from the days of limiting access to those with .edu email addresses, to now it being the most visited web page, Facebook has come a long way. And, with that, the capabilities and usability of Facebook has also changed. Now it kind of almost resembles, kind of like a microblog or a blog, with easy photo and video sharing capabilities. And just a few quick things, how you can easily advocate for dairy on Facebook. You can definitely just share posts on your wall, about life on your dairy. As you can see here, my mom talks about how she refueled after her Zumba workout with a glass of chocolate milk. You can always share positive dairy articles, or maybe even kind of controversial dairy articles, and give your opinion about the articles so that your followers can see that. You can share links to blog posts from your favorite dairy bloggers. And as people comment on your posts, it's an opening to have a conversation with, your friends and followers. You can also easily post photos and video, which again gives great insight into a farm for those people who, have never been on a farm before. And moving along to Twitter. Twitter was launched in July 2006 and is what some people call a microblogging social networking site. And your small posts, or as most people know, tweets, are limited to 140 characters. And the reason they're limited to 140 characters is that when Twitter first started, the ever-presence of, mobile devices wasn't as prominent as it was now. So you could link your Twitter account to your phone number, and you would text your tweet updates to the number that was coordinated with your Twitter account, and via text you would update your Twitter account. So, and the constraints on text messages was about 140 characters. And while Facebook has a friending process where you accept friends and then you become mutual friends, so you can see their profile, they can see your profile. On Twitter, you can follow people and they don't necessarily have to follow you back. And so, in a lot of people on Facebook, a lot of them are your friends or your family or acquaintances, And if you get a friend request from someone, you know, who's really a complete stranger, it's not as normal. You know, sometimes I get people who are strangers who friend request me on Facebook, and I'm just like, oh, I don't know if I want them to see that much about my life. But on Twitter, it's more common for you to be able to, you know, follow anyone from, you know, your next door neighbor, someone you know, to, you know, maybe Kim Kardashian or a favorite author. So Twitter is more open in that sense. And, you know, engaging with people is more common that you don't know in real life. And so one pro of Twitter is that, like I said, you know, you can expand your network. And one of the cons is that because you're limited to 140 characters, it's not always the best or easiest place to kind of get into in-depth and sensitive topics, you know, sometimes such as animal treatment issues, because you're so limited in space. So when you're getting started into Twitter, into Advocate for Dairy, you obviously can do some of the same things that you do on Facebook, you know, maybe find people you know and then start from there. You can post positive tidbits about life on your farm, tweet about events you're attending, you know, again, share links to positive dairy articles. And when you're getting started and trying to build your follower base and, you know, get people to follow you, you know, follow people you're interested in. If you find someone on Twitter and their tweets are really engaging and you're captivated by what they're saying, you know, follow them, you know, learn from them how they're using Twitter. If you like the way they tweet and their style, you know, go ahead and mimic them and, you know, even, you know, engage them. Tweet something to them that you think that they would like, and then they will obviously be more likely to follow you back. And so as you know, build up your follower base, it's easy to kind of get overwhelmed with everything that's going on because people, you know, tweet 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you know, all the time. So a great way to track different Twitter conversations and keep an eye on your favorite followers and conversations is to use a Twitter management tool. You know, one of the main ones that my dairy team uses is TweetDeck. So as you can see here on the left-hand column, you know, those are all of the people that I follow on Twitter. You know, I follow Walt Disney World and Taylor Loft. And then in the next column, you can see all the times that I am mentioned on Twitter. And then next to that, I follow, you know, #EggChat to see what's going on. And then I also have a column, you know, dedicated to those people I follow that are in the dairy industry. So it's a really easy way to make Twitter, you know, more manageable and, you know, to really gauge what's going on Twitter. Next is blogs. You know, blogs have been around for quite some time, and like I said before, are great places to have, you know, more in-depth and thorough conversations and posts. I've noticed that many, you know, My Dairy Advocates blogs, you know, kind of act as one-stop shops. You know, they obviously have their blog with, you know, great content, but within their blog, they have, you know, links to their Twitter, links to their Facebook, links to their YouTube account. It's kind of a really good catch-all. And so one of the good aspects, like I said, of a blog is that you can share in-depth information about what's going on your dairy farm. If you have like an interesting picture that might be taken out of context on Twitter, you could post it on your blog and give a really in-depth, you know, summary of what is actually going on. You know, one thing that Michelle mentioned about blogging, it does take more time, you know, obviously to write a well-thought-out and well-written blog post, and, you know, it does take a little bit more effort. And like Michelle also said, you know, you don't want to recommend just to start a blog just to have a blog. You know, you need to be strategic about it, and, you know, maybe, you know, Twitter or Facebook is your thing, and those are the things that you're comfortable with. And so here's an example of how you can engage in a conversation and advocate for dairy from The Wife of a Dairyman, a blog post about organic and conventional dairy farming. And so, you know, organic versus conventional dairying is kind of a hot topic. And so, the blog format really works well, and the Wife of a Dairyman was able to provide in-depth information, from her farm, and provide relevant sources about, organic farming versus conventional farming. But in the same sense, you can still have, two-way conversations through comments. And as you can see here, the Wife of a Dairyman got an anonymous comment, and most of the time, anonymous comments, means the commenter, might not always say something so nice, but here we have the Wife of a Dairyman who, provided, additional information, and she really did a good job about sharing personal experiences and providing resources. And last of kind of the main social media tools that we're going to talk about is YouTube. So YouTube was created in February of 2005, and it was created so you could share videos and people, could view videos that are on a public site. And over time, YouTube has evolved, and it's, become another platform, for sharing information about the dairy industry. And one thing to note about YouTube is although its key initial purpose was video sharing, a few years ago it overtook Yahoo and became the #2 search engine behind Google. So, if someone isn't going to Google dairy industry, odds are they're going to go to YouTube and, search dairy industry. And so we want to make sure that as the dairy industry, we have, videos that are representative of dairy farms and, positive things about dairy. And then just a few ways that you can use YouTube to advocate for dairy and really provide an inside look, to dairy farms and other things that are going on dairies that, some people have never seen. You're going to want to tag your video so that it's searchable, like we mentioned before. You're going to want to friends, other dairy people who have YouTube channels. You can provide recommendations that always increases the searchability and where they're ranked in the searching. It's a place where you can comment on videos. So it provides the opportunity, again, to have a two-way conversation and answer questions on each of the videos and YouTube channels. So those were just a few of the main social media properties that most people have been using. And so now that we've learned a little bit about them and how we can advocate for dairy using them, we're going to talk about how to quickly create and engage effective messages, posts or tweets or blog posts. Engaging in conversations in social media is just like having a conversation in real life. Like I said, you need to tailor your communication style for each outlet, and so when you have a conversation in real life, you're obviously going to talk about different things if you're, in person with someone, or if you're simply shooting them a text, or if you're on the phone. Each of those communication styles that you use is going to be vastly different. And so it's the same thing on social media. You're going to want to tailor your communication style depending on the social media property that you're using. And so to be engaging and use social media well, a few things that we have here is, to ask questions. Get to know your followers. They'll ask you questions. It's a really great way to broaden your network. And, say something interesting. There's a lot of information that dairy farmers have about their dairies that not a lot of people know about. Like Luann said, each dairy is different. There's no cookie-cutter dairy out there. And as you can see here, we have the dairy mom, and she says, our dairy operates 365 days each year, et cetera. And, people obviously know that, milk comes from cows, but they don't often think about the process and the people that it takes to, get that milk to arrive on the shelf at the grocery store. And so, she says our dairy operates 365 days a year, which, sheds some light on dairy farmers' dedication to their cows and shows the difference between, what consumers think is, a typical job, which is, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. And, it's these types of tweets that encourage consumers to think about the dairy industry and give them more perspective on everything that it takes to be a dairy farmer. And, it's a great point of interaction for consumers. So one thing that I personally get stuck on sometimes is where to start, and what the heck should I tweet, Facebook, or blog about. And here, we have some information about a Twitter survey, and it says, 72% of the people surveyed post personal updates, 55% share links to news stories, which are really great ideas. And something that's interesting here is that 62% post work updates. And I think as a dairy farmer and a representative of the dairy industry, we're in a really unique position to post, work updates. A lot of people, let's just say an accountant were to post work updates. Probably not nearly as engaging as a dairy farmer posting what is going on every day on their farm. So, these are just some ways you can think about and try and brainstorm, share a video, post general life observations about what's going on at your farm. And as you can see below, another idea is, if you see that second tweet from EFEB, she used hashtag Iowa PRSA 11, so she was attending the Iowa Public Relations Society of America annual conference. And that's another great idea. When you attend, dairy events like World Dairy Expo, local dairy events, county fairs, share with your followers what you're doing. It's a great idea, and it gets consumers to think about, maybe I should go to the county fair, or there's a lot of just good ideas out there. Now on to some new up-and-coming social media properties. And so what we've noticed is that the kind of more recent platforms that we're seeing are interest-based. And, there are always new up-and-coming social media platforms that are developed, and whether they succeed or fail, really depends on if they can get, the critical mass supporting it and using the platform. And so two new ones that we've been kind of tracking on the My Dairy team is Pinterest and TimeIn. And so both are interest-based tools that allow you to share links and pictures, and with TimeIn, video. So first up, Pinterest. And so as you can see on the screen right now, so this is what you would see after you've begun following people on Pinterest. You'll see there are different pins that go on the boards that they've created. There's kind of, each social media platform has, their lingo. Like on Twitter, you tweet. On Facebook, you post. On Pinterest, you pin. And so this is what you would see as you're following people. And so on Pinterest, you create different boards. And like I said, pin different images to these boards. And, you can give your board a theme. A lot of the ones I've seen are, ideas for a child's birthday party, or, new recipes that someone wants to try, or maybe, different couches that they're interested in putting in their home. It goes on and on. And so, and so here is what a profile looks like. So this person has, different boards that she posts things to. And so what you might be thinking is, this is neat for keeping all of my internet finds together and categorized, but how can we use this to advocate for dairy? And I was talking with Michelle and Jolene from the My Dairy team about Pinterest, and Jolene actually has, she's on Pinterest and has some boards, and one of her boards is recipes that include dairy. So any recipe that she's interested in making herself that has dairy in it, she pins to her board, and then her followers are able to, see what she's pinning. She also has a board, for farm-inspired decorating. So, as she's perusing the internet and sees something neat, that she wants to put on there for farm-inspired decorating, she posted on there. And so one of the things to remember is that the My Dairy program, one of the key reasons it started was to engage consumers and be out there interacting with consumers in social media spaces. This is a new space. Everyone who's using it is obviously a consumer. It's just another one of those places where it's good to have dairy industry representatives. And you can also search, and so I searched for cows, and I found that many people had cow boards and posted, pictures of cows to their boards, so there are consumers out there, looking for cow images. And so it's a good place for, some My Dairy advocates to be. And moving on to TimeIn. TimeIn is pretty new, and it launched in October of this year. And they have been dubbed the social network that pays you to post. And so this is also an interest-based platform that you subscribe and follow groups based on interests. And some of the interests, that are pretty populated are comic books, superheroes, and movies, among others. And so it allows users to post photos, links, videos, and text, and what they call them is chimes. So now on Twitter we tweet, on Pinterest we pin, and on TimeIn we chime. And the creators of TimeIn indicated that they'll give users 50% of the revenue it earns from selling advertising on their profile pages. So if I create a profile page and I have, 10,000 people following my profile page and, there's so many click-throughs and I get advertising on my personal page, I, Alyssa Dingman, would earn the ad revenue from those ads. And they also indicate that brands that sell the real estate, so the ads themselves on their pages can keep all the proceeds, that the ads create. And so what TimeIn, why they created it, they wanted to further improve existing social media sites by offering a design that kind of like weeds out all the information that you don't want to see, so you can subscribe to only like the Chime feeds that you want to see. So as you can see here, there's a bunch of different ones. There's a dairy milk community that has one member, and like we said, it's a really new site, so there's limited usability, or limited users, I'm sorry. And then just to give it some perspective on these new social media platforms, as you'll see, Twitter is the black line at the top, and it is within the top 10 websites online. You can see Pinterest kind of in the turquoise color, and they are just within the top 1,000 sites online. And then you can see TimeIn in that blue, and it just kind of blips up in mid-October, and it's been kind of up and down ever since, and it appears to be, within the top 10,000 websites online. So obviously, TimeIn still has a way to go to get up to the likes of, Quora and even Pinterest, and has a long way to go to catch up with Twitter. So now I'm going to turn it over to Emily Caldwell, who is going to chat about Proud to Dairy. Emily, are you on?
I think so. Can you hear me?
Oh, we sure can.
Okay, good. Well, I just wanted to start off by saying thanks for allowing me to join in the webinar today. We're definitely looking forward to ways to collaborate with the My Dairy program. So just to give you some background about the Proud to Dairy website, it was established in 2008 by Progressive Dairyman staff to serve as an online meeting place for dairy producers and promoters. We've encouraged our readers to join the site through the magazine, our website, and social media, but we think the large part of our growth has really occurred simply through word of mouth and members inviting their own friends. The platform for the site is a network called Ning, and all that's needed to become a member is a valid email address. Now, Progressive Dairyman staff does moderate requests for membership in order to help keep out the spammers. users are able to upload photos, videos, and blogs, and they can interact with one another through wall posts, comments, and status updates. They're able to create or RSVP to an event, and even a user's individual profile is totally customizable. And I think we have a screenshot here of Brenda Hastings' profile page. The site offers different templates that people can use and even allows people to upload their own photos to use as the background for that page. So we've really seen the site become an idea sharing hub over the years. We've created a list of dairy blogs to help provide some ideas to those new to blogging, and you can see a list under the Dairy Blogs tab on the site. And if you'd like to have your blog added to that list, you can just shoot me an email at emily@progressivedairy.com. So we really feel that this site is a good soft landing for someone just starting into social media. All the members here are pro-dairy, so you don't have to be worried about being on the defensive right away. And one last thing I'd like to mention here is that we often feature user-generated content from Proud to Dairy in our print magazine. We have a page or two in each issue that highlights what's happening on Proud to Dairy. And to give you some examples of that, our November Women in Dairy issue featured stories from members about their female dairy heroes, and then our most recent December issue highlighted the top 5 coolest things to happen on Proud to Dairy this year, including several blog posts from Brenda and people like her. So you can check out the site for yourself at www.proudtodairy.com or email me at Emily, E-M-I-L-Y, @progressivedairy.com. And feel free to contact me if you have any questions about the site. So with that, thanks again for allowing me to join in and tell you a little bit about Proud to Dairy.
Thank you, Emily, for that information. Does anyone have any questions about the social media segment? We have a question here that says, can you talk a little about Google+? Are people using it? Is it used most for text, photos, videos? Is it similar to Facebook? Google+, there is a segment of people on Google+. And Google Plus is kind of, again, it's a social networking site. You can create different, circles and drop your Google contacts into the circles and share information that way. The My Dairy team really hasn't seen a lot of people using Google Plus in the dairy industry. And the question, is it similar to Facebook? It has its similarities, but it's not anything too similar to Facebook. If that answers the question, okay. Are there any other questions? Okay. So then, before we wrap up today, we're going to do a quick walkthrough of the toolkit. For those of you, again, who are new to the My Dairy program and you haven't had a chance to check out the toolkit, we would highly recommend it. The website is www.mydairytoolkit.com, and it is password protected, so if you have misplaced or can't remember your password, feel free to email me or any member of the My Dairy team, and we can get a password reminder sent out to you. And if you don't have a password and you're on the phone, yes, again, feel free to email me or any member of the My Dairy team. Let's see. Okay. So here is the main page of the My Dairy toolkit, which provides, a great snapshot of everything that's going on within the toolkit. Up at the top, you'll see the navigation, the different sections, the Get Started section, tell your story, join the conversation, and share your experience, which we'll be going more in depth in just a minute. One thing that I really wanted to point out is the Farmers We Follow box, just off to the right. This blog roll launched just a few weeks ago, and it's a fun addition to the toolkit. There are 4 farmers featured on there now, and, they will be, rotating, quarterly throughout the year. And if you actually click on the more right below the blog roll, there's an entire page of My Dairy Advocate blogs that you can go to and, add to your Google Reader or start following and reading. Or if you'd like to have your blog added to the Farmers We Follow section on the toolkit, feel free to email me, Jolene, or Michelle, and we can definitely get you added in so that you are connecting with your fellow My Dairy bloggers. Okay, Get Started section. This first section, the Get Started section, provides background information, about the My Dairy program like we talked about today, and it includes information about the most popular social media platforms, a little bit more in depth than what we discussed today. So if you're brand new to social media and you want to, start a Facebook page, start a Twitter account, you come to the Get Started section, click on Facebook, and there's pretty detailed information about, setting up your Facebook account, how to engage with people online, and how you can get started using them. And then there are some, tips for using each of the platforms as well. So as you can see, here's a specific Twitter page. The information is pretty basic, and essentially it's to get people started using it. And so as the My Dairy program has grown, the toolkit has grown. There have been a few minor updates. But in 2012, I would visit the toolkit frequently for some great additional content about how to effectively use the social media properties. And that's something we'll be working for in 2012, is to provide, better and more robust information for the growing number of My Dairy advocates, as well as the growing comfort level within social media properties for the My Dairy advocate. And so the next section is the Tell Your Story section, and this includes information including consumer-tested key messages, talking points on a variety of topics, including animal care, environment, food safety, and pasteurization, among others. There's also a page dedicated to facts and figures about the dairy industry, and a page on how to best use photos and videos on social media. And so also, if you've never visited DMI's consumer-facing site, which I hope you have, dairyfarmingtoday.org, there's a great overview about dairyfarmingtoday.org and an outline of the website on this section. So this is really a great place to come if you need stats and statistics or, key messages about something. Maybe someone has commented on your blog and, you need some additional information and, assistance on, maybe what to post. You can definitely come to this section. It would be very helpful. And there's just a look at the key message page. And so then moving on to the Join Your Conversation section, as you can see, there are 2 sections, Listen and Evaluate and Comment and Respond, that are there to generally get you ready to use the social media properties, we learned about earlier today, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. And so as a first step, for those of you just getting into social media, or those of you who are experimenting with a new social media platform, you can head to Listen and Evaluate, which shares tips and pointers and information on why it's important to get to know the space, how people are using it, and get in there and start by listening. The next section, Comment and Respond, has great tips on how to get involved effectively, respectfully, and positively for the dairy industry. And then the last section is the Share Your Experiences section, which is the My Dairy Toolkit blog that I referenced earlier. And here, anyone who has the password to the My Dairy Toolkit can post a blog post. And, maybe you've had an especially difficult, maybe someone tweeted you and it was, and you're thinking about how you can respond, you can definitely come here and, post maybe what the tweet is and ask for some assistance from your fellow My Dairy advocates about how you can respond, positively for the dairy industry. So if you haven't visited the toolkit yet, or you haven't visited in a while, we encourage you to visit and let the My Dairy team know your thoughts. If you went to the toolkit looking for something specific and you didn't find it, please let us know. It's definitely something that we want to grow and be as a big assistance to the My Dairy advocates. So with that, I am going to turn it back over to Michelle.
Okay, thanks, Melissa, for all that information. Does anyone have any questions specific to the information that Alyssa shared? If you want to unmute, again, that's #6, or certainly you can ask a question through the Q&A area of the webinar. Okay, well, I know we're running ahead of schedule. Most people don't complain if we get done a few minutes early. I just have a few other pieces of information to share, and we'll open it up for questions and call it good. But what's ahead for My Dairy? This webinar is one that we wanted to make sure we had more of a general webinar, since the other 4 have been specific topics or themed webinars, and we're 45 minutes long. And we know throughout the year we've had a lot of new My Dairy advocates get involved and might not be aware of all the tools and resources that are available. So we wanted to spend some time doing that on this call. For 2012, it's going to be a little more of the same, and we hope to get your input as well. If you haven't already checked out the various Dairy Farming Today platforms that we've mentioned, whether that be YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Flickr, or dairyfarmingtoday.org, we really, really encourage you guys to go online, leave positive comments, or, give us a thumbs up, make us a favorite, subscribe, link to some of those good videos on YouTube, and just, it helps with search engine optimization to do that. Some of our videos have tens of thousands of views, some of them have a couple thousand. So anytime we get more positive comments and certainly likes out there, it helps drive people who have questions to search engines. Those search engines will then point to us. So we really feel like that's an easy step that people can do to advocate for dairy. The other thing is really just familiarize yourself with those dairy consumer tested key messages. Alyssa mentioned they are part of the toolkit. It's a really easy way to help, add some lingo that we know resonates with consumers as far as what you do every day on your farm. If you want a message flipbook, you can contact us. We would be happy to send you a little flipbook. You would just need to email us at mydairy@rosedmi.com. And really, I think we've put out over 60 e-blasts. We do one monthly, and then we, as the need arises, you'll see things that talk about photo contests to maybe news headlines that we need people to weigh in on. If you have the time to take action on some of those e-blasts, that would be wonderful. We know not all 1,600 people, when they receive them, have the time to sit down and respond, but if even a handful of you do, it's a handful more than if we didn't let you know about that information. So we really encourage you to pay attention to those e-blasts. We take it seriously as far as the information we put out to you via those e-blasts. We do not try to inundate you or spam you. They're very intentional e-blasts. So take a look at those. And like I said, we currently have over 1,600 My Dairy advocates, but we can always use more. If you know of someone that might be interested, have them contact us via that same email, mydairy@rosedmi.com, because we want to grow that number. The more voices online sharing positive dairy dialogue, the better. So in addition to that, like I said, we really, although we ask the My Dairy advocates to be reactive at times, we really want them to be proactive. So share farm updates through tweets. I know Alyssa gave some examples of some of the My Dairy advocates doing a great job of just that. Maintain an online journal about your farm. If blogging or writing or sharing stories that require a little more space than 140 characters or less, maybe blogging's your thing. And we really, again, if you contact us through that same email, if you need any help trying to get started, you just need thought starters or ideas, samples, we're happy to help you with all those. Facebook, of course, you can post updates, photos about your dairy. Flickr, our DST Flickr page has some beautiful on-farm photos that you can use, post some of your own, that kind of thing. LinkedIn, more of a professional network, but also an important site to know about. And certainly YouTube, for those of you who have a video camera and want to share a story. There's one My Dairy advocate, I think she's from the Dakotas, and she only tells stories through video, period. And it's fun to watch. So I think one of my favorite stats, while I'm not going to go through all of them as far as how many people are involved with each of those platforms, I think the last time I checked, over 35 hours of video are uploaded to YouTube every minute of every day. And I think that's just astounding and shows that that's definitely an arena where people spend time and want to get information. So if you have a flair for video and want to play in that channel, please do. We can always use more positive dairy video. Lastly, as we think about 2012, just a few weeks away, we certainly want your input. The My Dairy program is intended to have all the owners be you. On this call today, those 1,600 advocates, we want to make sure that information we're putting on the toolkit or that we're sharing in webinars are because of needs that you guys have told us about. We stay very intentional about that, and so we really encourage you to either give us ideas through the blog that's on the My Dairy Toolkit that Alyssa pointed out, or simply just send us a quick email to that mydairy@rosedmi.com and let us know what are some webinar topics you'd like to see. I know last year we had one that focused on how to respond to negative claims. We had another one, I think, that talks about how to get your point across in 140 characters or less. Anyway, so on and so forth. So we try to make them a little more specific, and they're just 45 minutes each. We can always use help, not just recruiting new My Dairy advocates, but recruiting advocates who are currently part of the program to participate in the webinars and continue with the momentum of building online voices by taking actions on those e-blasts. So keep that in mind as you receive them. And you'll continue to get thought starters and sample posts from us in 2012 via those e-blasts. With that, I want to certainly open it up for questions you may have, whether it's for any of the four speakers or potentially maybe more general questions not specific to the content covered. Again, you can ask those questions by hitting #6 or certainly through the Q&A function of the meeting center. Any questions at this point? Okay. Well, I want to just thank you all for participating in today's call and really for your time throughout the year in the My Dairy program. Let's keep the momentum going so we can increase positive dairy chatter across all social media platforms. And thank you for taking the time, not just today, but for all those blog entries, tweets, responses to online comments. You really are making a difference in helping move the needle in regards to protecting dairy's image, and we appreciate that. Thank you very much.